going to get the code from the developer. That's what yesterday we have seen, right? So we are just going to have three types of environments, and we have also seen about what is testing and really what is happening in the testing. And in that, two types of testings. One is manual testing and another one is automation testing. So that's what we have seen, right? So am I right or wrong? Yes. Here, right? So that's what yesterday we have seen, right? Like what is it testings and what is. Okay, fine. So see here, when it comes to manual testing, right? What exactly you are just going to do in the manual testing? So first of all, you are just going to get the software. So that software you are just going to test where test particular software manually. You are just going to get the software and you are just going to test that software manually. That's what the software testing, where the testers manually execute test cases without using any test automation tools. So it means the software application is tested manually by QA testers. So you are just going to test your application manually. So who is going to test? The QA testers are going to test this application manually. For example, if you are just going to get one of the website, so that website you are just going to make sure that your website is working properly. For example, I'll take one of the link here, demo.nop commerce. So this is a e-commerce website. So now you are just going to get this URL. You are going to test this application. All the functionalities are working fine or not. So if you are just going to do that manually, means so based on the documentations which you got, so then you are just going to talk that as an manual testing. Okay. In the manual testing also, there are two types of classifications. We are just going to classify that into two types. One is we are just going to say white box testing and another one is black box testing. See, what is meant by white box and what is meant by black box testing? See, white box testing is nothing but, for example, you take, it's very clear box. So if you are just going to take any box and see from the top, whatever the items that are available inside the box, it's going to be displayed. Like for example, you take this as a glass. So the box which has been made up of some glasses. So inside the items, whatever the items that is available inside the box, just you will be able to see that items and you are able to feel what are the items that are available. So that kind of things, that means usually when the developer is going to develop the software, right? If he needs to test the application, then he know what exactly the code has been written, what is the functionalities that has been implemented inside the code. All these things were aware by the development team. So if that persons are going to do some kind of testing by just validating the software, by just giving some inputs and verifying the outputs or something, right? That kind of things and all, we are just going to say that it's a white box testing. It's a clear cut information. Whatever the information whatever the code they have wrote, these people are able to, developers are able to view the code and they can test the application. That means, see, for example, 10 developers are there. Here, how the white box testing is going to done means, like there will be developer 1 will be there, developer 2 will be there, developer 3 will be there, developer 4. Like that, we are just going to have some set of developers till developer 10. Okay. Here, the code which has been developed by developer 1, it is going to be tested by developer 4 or someone else. Developer 4 is going to test his code. What type of, see, this type of testings, like see, if the developer our development team itself internally, they are going to test some set of code. Means, so what type of testings they can do? See, they can test the basic functionality. They can test the basic functionality of the system. They are going to test the basic functionalities of the system. In addition to that, they are also going to test how the code has been written. That means they are going to check the code verification and validation. So that we are just going to say that it's going to be code review. We are just going to call as code review. So exactly, this developer one has followed the coding standards, whatever the company or project is following or not, and exactly the functionality of this particular requirement is working fine or not, just by giving small inputs and checking the outputs, and how the code has been written. So those things and all, they are just going to verify these kind of things and all. So if the developer 2 related code will be checked by either developer 1 or some other else. So and developer 3 code is going to be checked by either developer 2 or some other persons. So like this, they are going to change internally. They are going to change their codes with some other persons, and they are going to internally check this kind of things and all. It's going to be happened by the development team. So the developer who is well aware of what is the functionality that has been written, what is the code exactly that has been written, how the functionality is working, he know very well about the things. So that's what, like, white box testing. We are just going to do the white box testing. That type of testings we are just going to call it as an white box testing, or you can also call it as an unit testing. Unit testing is going to be purely done by the development team. You are getting this point? I just want a response from your end. Are you getting this point or not? See, what is white box testing or unit testing means? This testing is going to be done by the development team.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, got it.
So, okay. Everyone is getting right? Now,
Yeah.
fine. This white box testing is going to be done by the development team. So we no need to bother about that. Okay. When it comes to the black box testing, right? So this is the place where our QA testers, QA team is going to, team or testers will be involved and doing the testings, doing this black box testing, BBT. So we as a test engineers or QA people are going to involve in this black box testing. See, why they are going to call this as a black box testing means, see here, whatever the code that has been written, everything can be visible to the developers. They can go and check the code from the code functionality onwards, they can check. But we as a QA person, we does not know any coding at all. We are purely a third party persons who will not know what is happening inside the box, what is available inside the box. Okay, so but we want to check the functionalities of the system. So what is the input that we are just going to provide, and based on that particular input, exactly whatever the things that we are just getting the proper outputs or not. So such kind of things and all, we are just going to do it in the black box testing. You're getting this point? So black box testing is nothing but we don't know what is the code that has been developed, what is the functionalities that is happening inside the box. We are the testers who is going to test the functionalities of the system. We will not bother about the code. We are just going to bother about only the functionalities. So we are just going to get the requirements. Based on that requirements, we are just going to prepare our test cases. Based on the test cases, we are just going to check the functionalities of the system. So that kind of things and that kind of testings, if we are just going to do this kind of test, who does not know, don't know about the code and logic, what is the logic they have implemented inside. So without knowing that particular logic or code, if you are just going to test this application, means this kind of testings, we are just going to call it as an black box testing. So purely it was like black box means it was painted with black color shaded. So inside, like you cannot view what is there inside the code and all. Sorry, inside the box and all. So such kind of testings, if you are just going to do, means like that is going to be we are just going to tell them as a black box testing. So now you understand what is meant by a white box testing and black box testing. Who is going to do the white box? Who is going to do the black box testings? In this particular 2 points, is it clear for you?
Yes.
At least you can just see, if you are not able to answer also, no worries. Like you can just ping me in the chat. Done. Like yes, something. Okay. At least thumb or whatever the things, so that I can understand you are getting these points or not.
Yes, got it.
Okay, fine. See, now we no need to worry about this part. This is going to be done by the developers, that we are just going to call it as a unit testing. When it comes to black box testing, right? So there are multiple test types are available inside this black box test. So what are the testings that we are just going to, as a QA engineer or test engineer? So a QA tester or what are the testings that you want to perform by using this black box testing? Means there are again lot of testing types comes into the picture. That means first, initially we are just going to call it as a, what is the first test you are just going to give when the environment is cleared. So the developer has given you the code. The first test what you are just going to do is nothing but the smoke testing. And after smoke testing, you are just going to do the sanity testing. Once sanity is done, you are just going to do the UI testing. Next, you are just going to do the modular testing. And then you are just going to do the functionality testing. See, these are all the kind of testing types. So which we are just going to do as a QA engineer or test engineer, we are just going to do smoke testing, sanity testing, UI testing, modular task testing, functionality testing, integration testing, system testing, and then regression testing. Finally, you are just going to do the acceptance testing. So these are the types of testings we are just going to do. After acceptance testing, it's either you can call it as an UAT testing, and then there is a, after release, you are just going to do one beta testing. So in these areas, as a test engineer, you are responsible to do these kind of testings and all. As a QA test engineer, you are responsible to take care of these particular testings, and you want to make sure that the system is working fine without any bugs. So system is working fine without any bugs or any issues. So you are just going to provide 100% quality, means after doing this kind of testings only, you are just going to make sure that the system is working fine without any bugs or issues. Now I'll take one by one testing and I'll just explain you. First, I will take smoke testing. See, what is meant by smoke testing? See, for example, right? So smoke means what? Like, see, in olden days and all, right? Like they are not having some cookers to cook the food, like rice and all, right? Like maybe I don't know, like you people know about the rice and all, right? So the people usually what they will do means when they are cooking, right, at that time, so initially when the cooking has been properly done or not, that they are going to make sure that with the type of smell itself, they are going to find out it has been like everything has been added properly into the food or the preparation of that food, and they are, with that smell itself, they are going to say that the flavor itself it's very good, and okay, we can just take it into the considerations. Or otherwise, if the smell is like they're using that smell itself, if they are going to find out something is missing means, then they are just going to add some more things, flavors to that particular food items, right? So in the similar way, when the software got ready, when the developer is going to provide us the initial build, first build. Okay, build means what I told you, right? It is a build is nothing but the software which they have developed. It is we are just going to consider it as a build. So that build they are going to host it in the server. So initially they are going to host it in the development server, and then they will be moving it to the testing servers or stage server. Okay, so that initial build, just what we are going to do means we are not going to study the test cases, and we are not going to keep our test cases aside, and we are not going to test. We are not going to do any reference, only based on our knowledge where we have studied our documentation and all, right. Based on our knowledge, already we have some set of knowledge about the application. Just we are going to launch the application, and you are just going to check the minimal functionalities, and I'll just you are going to enter this URL, and you are going to check either URL is working fine or not, and you are just going to randomly click on some other menus, and that menus are working properly or not. So, and then you are just going to enter some data into some text box, and you are just going to see this kind of some basic test you are just going to do, and making sure that the system is not getting crash in any of the existing features. So you are not going to test the complete functionality. You are just simply launch the application, and you are just going to change some of the things in this, and you're just going to click what are the links that are available and buttons. Simply you are just going to check either system is responding properly without any errors or not after deploying it in the testing server. So that kind of testings and all you are just going to test means that comes under the smoke testing. Initially you are just going to do the smoke test. Start with your testing is going to get started only with the smoke testing. And once the smoke testing has been done, so you found some of the issues. That means while entering this URL and entering this URL itself, instead of launching this particular page, you are just going to get some crash page after deploying it in the testing server. So if this kind of issues and all, or otherwise the application is getting launched properly, when you are just going to click on the links, right? So when you click on some of the links, it is getting some errors. So these kind of testings and all, if you are just going to do and you are just going to get some errors means in this smoke testing, that you are just going to raise to the developers, and the developers are going to fix that kind of issues. And if they are going to release another build called build 2. So already here they have released like a build 1. They have released build 1. Here after fixing the issues, build 1 related issues, they are going to release build 2, second build, that is called. And once again, if you are just going to test the second build means what? Like it's a code. Again, they are going to change some set of code, and they are going to like based on your feedback, whatever the feedbacks you have given in the first release, right? Based on that particular feedback, they are going to release the second release called build 2. If you are just going to test the same functionalities, whatever the issue that you have given in this first release, if you are just going to say check the same functionalities and you want to make sure that system is working fine, this kind of regression build, if you are just going to test, means that kind of testings and all, we are just going to call it as a sanity testing. Are you getting this point?
No, can you repeat again?
See, 1 second, I'll just do one thing. First, initially, this is the developer. Okay, development team. They have already developed one application. They have posted in the, like they have released, first release, they are going to release 1, and it is going to be hosted in the server called test server. So once this application has been completely developed and it has been released to the test server, from this server, you are just going to get one of the URL. Okay, you are going to, after it has been released to this server, the code has been brought to the server, you are just going to take the URL, that means that is test URL, and you are just going to launch your application here. So once when you are launching this application, instead of launching either login page or otherwise home page or something, right? You are just going to get a error 500 page, error or error 500 page, something, some error page. You got some error page. Okay, instead of login page, it is going to give some error page when you are clicking on this URL. That means what is the issue is the code which has been developed in this local machine, that is not properly working in the test environment. So this, how you are just going to find out, simply you are not going to refer any documents and all. So whatever the URL is going to be there, that URL you are just going to add it in some browser, and you are just going to check either application is launching properly or not. This is simply a smoke testing. Okay, here you are just going to do smoke testing. Simply say, once the application got launched, you got the login page. In the login page, you are just going to give the username and password, and you are just going to click on the login button, and you are just going to check. This is a general check. So if there is any other links available in the login page, like forgot password or something, you are just simply go and click on this particular forgot password link, and you are just going to check. Okay, you just got it, right?
Yes.
So this
Yes.
kind of initially in the first release, if you are just going to check, means that testing, they are going to call it as a smoke, smoke testing. So just you are going to click the URL, launch the URL. After launching, you are just going to click on the forgot password link, clicking on the button, or entering login details and clicking on the button. Simple test you are just going to do without referring to any document. You are just simply, what are the links are available, what are the things that are able to key in, all these things you are just going to do the things. Okay, this type of simply either logging is happening properly or not. After login, you are just going to check just by go and click on some other links. What are the links, or what are the sections that are available? All the sections are loading properly or not. Simply, you are just going to do some kind of random related stuff. That kind of things and all without any document reference. That is called release 1. That is called build 1. See, if this is not working properly in the URL itself, after entering the URL itself, you are just getting error 500. Now what happened means you are just going to raise a bug to the development team, saying that hey, your application is not working. That's what you are just going to. Application is not working in the server. That's what you are just going to confirm. Once this developer, he will just go and check his code, and he will try to do some modifications in the code, and then he is going to release to the QA server, as a second build. So release 2 with the fixes, with the bug fixes. bugs. You have find some bugs, right? Means issues. That issues they have fixed, and then they have released it to the QA server. Again, they are going to move. This is called build to. This is build to. They are going to move this build to code to the testing server. From here, again, the test engineer are going to take this, and again, he is going to enter the URL in the like browser, and he's going to check either login in the login page. He's getting everything properly, and he's able to click everything after going to the home page. So he's able to just go and click on some other links or not. So this kind of second time, if you are just going to retest with the changes, whatever the changes that you have, that what are the errors that you have given. Now that error 500 and all, it's not getting when you're clicking on the URL and the login button is taking properly. So such kind of validations and all, if you are just going to do the retesting, means in the second build, that testing, we are just going to call it as a sanity testing. That is regression build. Regression build means again and again. So again, in the second time also, in the second release also, if you are just going to find out some links are not working, again, you are just going to raise the issues to the development team. Again, the development team is going to fix that issues, and they are going to release it to the customers. So you are just getting it, right? So this is the way continuously it is going to happen. That repeatedly, if you are just going to test the regression builds, build 2, build 3, build 4, something like that, right? Release 2, release 3, release 4, and all. If you are going to test repeatedly for your reported issues, then that kind of testing, you are just going to call it as a sanity testing. See, even in this, both the smoke testing and sanity testing, you are not going to refer any documents and all. Here, you are just going to check the basic functionalities. If that is not working, you are going to raise an issue. If that issues has been fixed or not, you are just going to verify in the sanity testing. This is called regression sanity testing. Regression build sanity testing, you are just going to call it as a. Are you getting it or not?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So now you just got clear, right? What is smoke testing? What is sanity testing? Now we are just going for the next type of testing. What you are just going to do? See, you have launched. They have given the URL. You have launched the application. Here, after launching, first thing as a user, what they are going to see. See, first, if the user is going to log in, right? You need to think like a user here. That means, so he is going to check for usability purpose, it has been designed properly or not. Or like see here, unnecessarily they have occupied some set of space here and there. So you want to come up with some set of UI related. UI means user interface. This one we are going to call it as an user interface. That means we are the users who is using the system. So for we want to feel good when we log into the system. For us, it should be very much easy. It should not be so much tough for us to find out some set of things. See here, everything should be in a proper way. Like the links and all should be in the top menu. So the search box should be in the middle, like whatever the things it may be. See, you can also suggest instead of unnecessarily wasting this much of space here. So why can't you keep this text box in this particular area? You are getting this point, right?
Yes.
This kind of UI related some alterations, if you are just going to do, right? So that kind of things and all, we are just going to call this as an UI related testings. So you are just going to say these menus are not looking good. If we want to change these menus, or otherwise image should be kept it in the top. Unnecessarily they have used unnecessarily this much of space here. So we want to properly utilize this left side and right side spaces. So our application, why instead of scrolling down, so they can keep some set of items in the right side or left side, right? So this kind of things and all, user wise, you want to think which is going to be better. So how the system should display all the contents, and is it really easy for the users to just check for this kind of things and all or not? So all these things, right? You are just going to um, make sure all the user interface functionalities are properly designed or not. It is looking good or not. So these kind of things and all, just you are going to make sure, right? So instead of keeping this as a link, we want to keep it as a button, or otherwise instead of keeping this all these things in the bottom, we can just keep it in the top left corner, something like that. We want to give some suggestions. The suggestions means it's not very simply giving some suggestions. That should be a valid UI related changes. Suggestions should be valid. Then only the people are going to accept, or otherwise our suggestions are going to kept it aside. So these kind of testings and all, it comes under the UI testing. Is it clear?
Yeah. Harish, can you please scroll up?
Where this here, right? In which page, like you want? In which page you are asking? In this page? Actually, I don't know. Like, it's a BIOS or?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Okay, BIOS. See, now we have got about these three types of testings, correct?
Yeah.
See, after doing these three testings, next to what type of testings you are just going to do? See, that is called module testing or task. We are just going to call it as a module or task or component testing. That means what is meant by, already I have just told you what is meant by a component testing or module testing. Can anyone please respond to this question, please? We have already spoken about this. I want response from you, and any one of the person can just see whatever the thing is right or wrong. At least please answer to this question. So if it is wrong also, I can correct that, not a problem.
One module means a login module.
Pardon?
Or logout module.
So okay, fine, not a problem. So I'm just
It
going
is
to
done after unit testing, right?
one after unit testing.
Module.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Perfect. Yes, you are right. See that UA test. See, once unit testing means that is going to be done by the developer. Once after unit testing is done, so it will be released for our test engineers. So initially, what the test engineer, I'm just going to erase this. See, once the unit testing is done, that has been going to be, for example, you think that we have got the requirements here. So they are going to subdivide, so they cannot develop the entire requirements into like this. You're just going to call this as an entire requirements. So as a developer, they cannot develop all the requirements in a one stress, correct? So for that, what they will do, they will split this requirement into some set of requirements called requirement 1, requirement 2. They are going to split it into requirement 3. So here they are just going to split off the entire requirements into some set of sub task or components. We are just going to call this as a subtask or components, or otherwise module wise. For example, you take one of the application. I'm just going to say, so order management module, order management module. In this order management module, right, we are just going to say that, so there is a, like we are just going to split this order management, sorry, it's not a module, it's order management application. Okay, I'm just going to application or project. So in this project, I have the total requirements is there. In that requirement, I am just going to split my total requirements into some set of subtasks. That means, so I'll be having sales department team will be there. And I'm just going to have employee department team will be there. And also I'm just going to have sales employee purchase department. And so like this, you are just going to have some set of departments and all you will be there. So what your application itself, your project itself, you are just going to split these things into some set of sub-tasks. So this sales department into one task, employee department requirement into one task, purchase department requirement into one task. That means you are just going to make it as a subtask, or you can also call this as a module, or you can call this as a one of the component of your application. So this is one subtask, and this one is going to be another subtask, and this one is going to be another subtask. This is one of the module, and this is one of the module, and this is going to be one of the module, or this is going to be one of the component, this is going to be one of the component, this is going to be one of the component. So after splitting up this particular complete requirement into some set of requirements, so we are just going to make sure that the developer is going to first initially he is going to develop this particular application, this particular task. He is going to complete this particular task, and he is going to release it to the test engineers initially. So for that, he is going to release to the testing server. Here, the tester is going to test this particular task, testing this particular task or module or component, means that we are just going to call that as a module testing or component testing or task testing. Next, the other developer is going to develop this particular task, and he is going to release it to our test engineer separately. So this one we are just going to test it separately. This component. So component 1 we are just going to test it separately. Component 2 we are just going to test it separately. In the similar way, component 3 we are just going to test it separately. So like this, if you are just going to test each and everything separately means that we are just going to call it as a component testing. Okay, once after this components and all, one day what you are just going to do means you are just going to combine. After completing component 1 and component 2, you are just going to combine this. Component 1 or module 1 has been tested separately. If they have developed 2 components means we are just going to, if they are going to combine these 2 components into one component, and if we are just going to integrate these 2 things means that one we are just going to call it as an integration testing. If you are going to test, if you are just going to test these particular 2 things, if you are just going to combine these 2 things into one component and you are just going to test it means this one you are just going to call it as an integration testing. Integration means this module separately they have developed this module separately. Now they are going to combine both the codes into one set of code. Both the functionalities you are just going to combine into one set of functionalities, that you are just going to call it as an integration testing. Now once component 3 has been developed, then that also you are just going to combine. So these kind of things, if you are just going to combine all one by one means, so after combining all these things, if you are just going to do some kind of things means that we are just going to call it as an integration testing. that is combining of module 1, module 2, module 3, module 4, something like that. If you are just going to keep on increasing set of modules and the testing, means that we are just going to call it as a module testing. You're just getting this point, right?
Yes.
See, here they are going to say that functionality testing means what? That is nothing but in the component testing itself, if you are just going to check the functionality means already I told you how the system should behave, how the system is behaving. Such kind of functionalities and all, if you are just going to test, means that we are just going to call them as an functionality testing. Correct, that and all. Even in the component or module testing, you are just going to do the functionality. After integrating the entire modules into one module, and there also you are just going to do the functionality. Functionality testing means you are just going to test the complete system functionality, how the system should work. Like if the login screen means, what is the functionality of the login screen? By just giving the correct username and correct password, it should take you to the corresponding home page. If you are just going to take the if you are just going to provide the wrong username and password, you should get the error message. So those things and all, it's functionalities of the system, how the system should behave when we are just giving the correct input or wrong input. So if you are just going to validate such kind of things and all, it is the testing of the functionalities of the system. So now you are just aware of what is component or model testing, and you also aware of what is meant by integration testing. Till this point, it's clear, right?
Yes.
Now we are just going for the next testing called system testing. See, already you have developed, you have tested component module 1 separately, module 2 separately, module 3 separately. In a similar way, totally how many in this requirement, how many modules are there? Totally you have, for example, 10 modules is there. Okay, they have released all the modules separately, and they have also combined in one place. They are trying to, after completing each and every module, they are trying to integrate with the existing modules and all. So then integration testing also you have done. In one point of time, after the 10th module is completed, after doing the individual testing of the 10th module, if it is working fine, means then you are just going to combine all this system into one particular system. You are just going to combine module 1 to module 10. That means the entire application, entire application functionalities, if you are just going to integrate and combine. Then if you are just going to do the testing, means that the system, that is called, we are just going to call it as a complete system testing. The entire system is ready now. After integrating all these things, the complete system is ready. All the functionalities has been developed. All the modules has been developed and integrated. Now the complete system is ready, means then if you are just going to test the entire system, entire applications, that we are just going to call it as a system testing. That is, you are just going to combine module 1 to, for example, here module 10. So you are just going to combine all these modules, and if you are just going to test the complete system functionalities, means that we are just going to call it as a system testing. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then see, till this point it is done. I have tested the entire system. Absolutely, we just okay with the things, everything. Now, why again the regression testing coming into the picture? There is another testing called regression testing. Why it comes into the picture means, See, after doing the system testing, definitely they are going to combine all these components into one, right? While they are combining all these components, definitely we may face lot of issues. They may face lot of issues after combining. Maybe the functionality, some functionalities will not work properly, or some module itself we may get some errors. So, or some of the pages is not properly designed or something. So, lot of things we are just going to find some kind of issues when we are doing the system testing. When we are doing the system testing, at that time, we may find lot of issues or bugs.
Hello.
Yes,
So we are doing the system testing after the integration and module testing, or
yes. After module testing, we are just going to do the integration testing. After integration testing, we are just going to do the complete system testing.
okay.
Initially, they are going to develop small task only. It's a component. We are just going to initially test only that particular task, and if there is any issues, means you are just going to report to the test engineer, development team. So you are just going to test module 1 separately, module 2 separately, module 3 separate. Here you are just going to test separately. In the integration, if they are going to combine module 1 and module 2, and they're going to say that we have combined these two things. First, you test these two things and confirm us. That's what the developer will say. We are just going to do this module 1 and module 2 testing, and we are just going to report if there is any bugs in there. And after doing these two things, in the meantime, developer will develop module 2, right? You are just going to test it separately, and as well as you are just going to combine that module 3 also to this integration. See, module 2 also you are just going to combine with module 1 and 2. Already module 1 and 2 is combined. Now we are just going to combine module 3 also with module 1 and 2. So like this, if you are just going to combine each and every module and you are going to do the testing, means that is called integration testing. Here you are just going to keep on adding one by one after completing the things separately. Then one particular day, definitely they may have completed the entire modules called 10 modules. So you are just going to integrate the entire 10 modules and you are just going to test the complete system, means then it is called system testing. While doing the system testing, we may find lot of issues also. So that issues and all, you are just going to report to the development team, and development team is going to fix all the issues which you have reported at the time of system testing. After fixing that issues, you want to do the testing called regression testing, which is nothing but the repetition of the entire system. Repetition of the entire system, repetition of the test, repeating the system testing, entire system testing once again. So repeatedly, if you are just going to test the entire system after fixing each and every bug, means that we are just going to call it as a regression testing. Repetition of the testing. This see here there are two types of testings is there. One is retesting is there, regression testing is there. Regression testing is you are just going to do when you are testing the entire system. If you are just going to find the issues, and only if you are just going to test that particular issue, means that is called retesting. You are just going to call only testing that particular issue itself, means it is going to be retesting. Regression means again you are just going to, after fixing the bugs, you are just going to test the entire system once again. That is called as a regression testing. Are you getting clear about this? Or I want. Okay, fine. See, this is the place where the automation comes into the picture. See, till this point it is fine here. Like everything, like till system testing, you can do manual also, because you are just going to do. You are not going to repeat more than like 4 times or 5 times. But when it comes to the after system testing is done, when you are doing the regression testing, right, you want to repeatedly test the system whenever it is required, whenever there is any changes comes into the picture, whenever the issues comes into the picture. At that time, every time you want to check the entire system functionalities. Why we want to check the entire system? Because maybe the developer has changed the code in one place. Maybe that code has been referred to some other modules or some other places also. So instead, because of that particular change, it should not affect in some other places, and it should not disturb the system. Okay, existing running system should not get affected. So that kind of things and all you want to validate means we want to test the complete system once again every time after fixing each and every issues, or if the customer is going to change, do some changes in the system means again we want to do the regression testing completely. So this is the place where the automation comes into the picture, because every time if the customer is going to give some issue, or every time if the issue comes in, again we want to test the entire system means it is going to be very much painful for us. Again and again, how many times you can repeatedly test the entire system? See, module testing means it's going to be very small one. You can test it within like another 2 to 3 hours of time. The entire system, if you want to test it, if it's a bigger application, means it will take another 5 days to complete the entire system testing. Am I right or wrong? So,
Yes.
so to reduce that manual effort, unnecessarily repetition of testing, testing is going to be done by the manual test engineers, is going to be very much painful, and also it is taking a lot of time for us to test the entire system. So uh, to overcome these particular problems, they have thought of bringing up the automation in this particular place, where the automation is going to play a bigger role in this particular things. See, whenever any changes or issues comes into the picture, if the developer is going to do some changes means we are just going to, already if automation is there means we are just going to click that automation script to run. That automation scripts are going to take care of the entire system testing, which is going to repeatedly test, and instead of as a manual test engineer you will be taking 5 days of time, right? But within 4 to 5 hours of time the entire system is going to be tested by the tested by the system, automation tools. So that is the thing where the automation comes into the picture. Now you just got it right, where the automation is going to be coming into the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So now the other type of test, see, once the regression is done, you are just going to give a sign off. So that means you are just going to give you want to do the acceptance testing. You want to sit with your customer and you want to do the acceptance testing, and you want to just provide the sign off. See, acceptance testing sometimes, right, we want to sit with the customer and we want to give the sign off. We want to get the sign off from the customer. Or sometimes, right, we want to ourselves, we want to test and give the sign off to the team, saying that, hey boss, yes, I have tested thoroughly. You can just move this code to the live server. Like that, you want to give a sign off. Next one is UAT, or user acceptance testing. So UAT or user acceptance testing. That means UAT testing is nothing but after you release it, the users are going to test the system and they are going to come up, they are going to test this application in our environment itself, and they're going to make sure that system is working fine in our environment. Means that type of testing you are just going to call it as an alpha testing. The UAT testing which they are going to do in our environment, in our servers, in the testing servers or QA servers, that we are just going to call them as an alpha testing. And once after this user acceptance testing is done, we are just going to release to the real environment, live servers, and there the users are going to test, the same users are going to test in the live server, means there they are going to say that it's an beta testing. You got this point, right? So what is
Yes.
alpha testing and beta testing means? Alpha testing will be the testing which is going to be done in our environment, in our QA environment, in our development or QA environment, and they are going to make sure that customers are going to make sure that it is working properly. That means that is called alpha testing. Beta testing means they are going to release the application into the live server, and before it goes to the customers, these users are going to test some kind of functionalities, means that they are going to call it as a beta testing. So these are all the types of testings we are going to do from our end as a manual test engineers.
Can you repeat beta testing again?
See, beta testing is nothing but after moving the code to live server, if the customers, that means not the entire customers, if the few of the customers are going to do the testing before it really, before the system is going to use by the real users, that is called beta testing.
Okay.
I'll just call you. Yes, just I will call you in 1 second. Okay. So, is it right? Like this is fine, right? So you
Yes.
understood, right? So these are all the entire testing types we are just going to do from our end.
Alpha testing is done by our end, right?
Alpha testing is going to be done in our environment.
Okay.
That is, who is going to test here means the users, the customers are going to test in our environment. That is, customers are going to test. Customers are going to test in our environment, means that is called customers are going to test in our environment, means that they are going to call it as an alpha test. See, I'll give you a small example, okay, for alpha and beta testing in the real world scenario. See, do you know about Jio?
Yeah.
You've heard about India. They have launched the Jio in India first, like I think, right? Like, so they have initially what they have done means they have initially launched the Jio. So, but what they have done means they did not charge any they did not apply any real-time charges. Without any charges, they have just released it to the real world, and they have asked the users to use the system without paying any single paisa, right? So,
Okay.
or otherwise they have just asked the users to pay for 500, and they have given some unlimited like unlimited phone, like the entire usage, net usage, and as well as calls, everything has been given it as an unlimited for 1 year. Initially they have released, right, like in such a manner. I don't know about like in Canada and all. In India they have done in similar way. So what they have done means they have released it in the real world. But initially, like why they have, like initially what they have done means, see, after the Jio, they found Jio, right? Internally in the labs they have tested, but in the labs, how many phones they can randomly test it? Around maybe around 1,000 phones they can test, or otherwise 2,000 phones they can test it. Correct, inside the lab. So
Yeah.
inside the lab, when they are testing, they are able to test only for around 2,000 users. But when it comes to the real world, right, the really 2,000 users are going to be there in one city. Minimum I'm saying, like, sorry, minimum 2,000 users and all, it's going to be there in one city itself. So they cannot test the entire functionality inside the lab itself. So what they have done means, see, inside the lab, they have asked the customers to just come and test, and they found the signals are properly, it's going, like the internet is working properly or not. They are going to test everything inside the lab, means that they are just going to call it as an alpha testing. Once this alpha testing is done, really they are not able to feel the real-time environment, and they want to feel everything in the real-time world. Means what they want to do, they want to come and release in the real world, but that should not be affected to the real users, correct? So what they have done, they have released it in the live. They have brought up in the live environment. But what they have done is they did not literally charge for any users. They have given it as a free for everyone. So whoever, they can go and register for this Jio, right? They used to get the SIM cards, and they can start using the things from the day one. So everything is going to be unlimited. Calls are going to be unlimited, and net is going to be unlimited. So what they have done is,
Geo is like T-Mobile here. Maybe other
okay.
persons might don't know. Yeah, T-Mobile like that.
So actually, this
Roger.
Geo is one of the networking
Network.
related stuff. They like they have given it as a maybe like, I'm not sure about that. T-Link,
Yeah,
right?
T-Mobile. Then we
T-Link.
have like this kind of network here.
See, if they
T-Mobile.
want to test it in the real world, means they want to release it to the customers, but they should not really, they cannot charge the things to the customers and all. So they have given, so that they have given it free to all the customers for 1 year unlimited, and they have asked the customers to use the phones. See, once after using the phones, right, what they have done is they have lot of places they have placed their what is that, network antennas and all is there, right? From that antennas, they started tracking how the users are using the system. So what is the performance of the system? It's like when it is behaving, like if the more number of users are going to be come under one antenna or something, how the system performance is. So everything they try to track everything from the system itself. Okay, but the real users who are using that, they did not feel that. But sometimes, right, whoever feeling some disturbances or whatever the things that comes inside the phone, right, they are they will be able to track each and everything inside from the system itself. So through that, they have find lot of issues, and they have fixed, they have given solutions for that kind of issues and all in the real world. So such kind of testings, if you are just going to do it in the real world, just after releasing it in, they have released it in the real world, but they are still for past 1 year they have done only the testing. They did not really release it into the customers. So they did not charge any charges to the customers.
Yeah.
So just they have provided the network and everything to the users, and they started observing how the system is behaving when the number of users are going to get increased. Such kind of testings and all, you are just going to do it in the real time, real environment, live environment, means that they are going to call it as a beta testing. You're just getting it, right?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So we have seen about all these types of testing. Tomorrow we'll see some other things like, so already I just given some elaborations, and apart from this, we see these are all the main testings, and inside this we may have some set of other things which we'll be seeing, other types of testings also, that we'll see tomorrow.